Hey, don't forget your brush!
Hello and welcome to ArtShed. I'm Kathy, and in this video we're going to be learning how to draw and paint our Puppies canvas painting project. We're going to be doing this in two parts. In the first part we'll learn how to draw it, and in the second part we'll be learning how to paint it. So in this first part, all you're going to need is some ordinary paper, a pencil and a rubber. So to get started on our drawing, I've done a big version here so you can have a good look at the different shapes and lines that we need to put on our picture so it ends up looking like puppies and not some other type of animal. Now I've got a Dalmatian in the middle of my picture, and then I've got two other fluffy puppies which could look like all sorts of different breeds. Now, as ever with ArtShed projects, I'm going to be demonstrating my version, but you might have your own dog or even a puppy at home, in which case you might want to draw your puppy into your picture. So that's absolutely fine. By following my drawing, it will help you understand how to draw it your way. So where do we start with a picture like this? Well, I've thought of that, and I think the one thing you will be able to do is find the very middle of your piece of paper. And we're going to be starting right there, and you can see that I've put my Dalmatian's nose right in the middle, and that's really going to help us because then we've got something to build around. So we're going to be working on our dog in the middle, and then we'll know how much room we've got for the other two. So you're going to need a piece of A3 paper, and it needs to be landscape, and a pencil and a rubber. So let's get going. I've drawn a big box here, and I want you to imagine that that is the shape of my sheet of paper, so it's just like yours. And also I've got my canvas here that we'll be painting on later, but I've got the drawing here so you can see what we're aiming for. So if you remember what I said earlier, we're going to need to find that point right in the middle of your piece of paper. So let me see if I can find mine. So there, go up the middle, and then I want you to find it and put a little dot. It doesn't matter if it's not exactly in the middle, but somewhere in the middle. Now at this point we're going to be drawing our Dalmatian's nose, and what we don't want is it to be tiny, because then you'll find you have a really tiny dog. So I'm going to draw a kind of rainbow shape which is floating above my dot, and you'll also notice it's on its side because my Dalmatian's head is cocked to the side. Okay, you could draw yours straight up if you want to, that's fine. And then I'm just going to join with two curves, come down to my dot, and I've now got the Dalmatian's nose ready to build his face around. So we're going to work on his snout and then build up to his eyes. So if you start from the bottom and curve round like this, so here we go. I'm going to stop about there. We're going to try and do roughly the same shape on the other side. So just underneath this bit here, we're going to put his tongue. So that's just going to be a tongue shape. I think we all know what a tongue shape looks like. There we go. I'm just going to put a little line down the middle. And now this bit here is going to narrow and go up like this. And it's good to imagine, sometimes with your fingers first, before you draw, so you know where you're going. So I'm actually going to start up here and curve down. So I'm going to go round like that. And on the other side, let's see if I can do There we go. My drawing might look a bit wibbly wobbly at times because I'm drawing on the side. So you can have a good laugh at mine if it goes funny. So we've now got his snout. So we're going to work on the side of his head. So I'm just going to do a line that goes roughly the same height as this one. Down the side. Let's see if I can get it roughly the same. And then in there, I'm going to put 2 really big eyes. Now, the eyes on my puppies are much bigger than you'd really find eyes on puppies, but that's the fun of art. You can make things totally different from reality. Now, I'm just going to do that for now. We'll come back right at the end and put all the details in their eyes. So now I'm going to actually imagine roughly where the top of my dog's head's going to go. Now you can see that my dog, his head goes off the page. So they've got quite long, narrow faces, haven't they, Dalmatians? So he's got quite a tall head. So I'm just going to have it back up there. So I know that his ears are going to come off here and here. So I've got a floppy ear here and one that's sticking up on this side. You can choose whether to keep it simple and just do 2 floppy ones. It's totally up to you. So this ear is just going to flop round. So I'm going to do a curve from here that goes around like that. And then the top of it is actually coming off my page. Joins like that. Now his other ear is actually sticking up. It's coming up off his head. He's obviously heard something. So he's pricking up his ears. So I'm going to start with the top, which is going to curve around like this. And the bottom bit, which is also going to curve around like that. And then you kind of want to do the ear shape here. So I might make it take it down to about there. And then we've got a bit of a gap here that we need to sort out. And because his ear is pricked up, we're going to see a little bit of the inside of his ear there. So what we're just going to do is from here, we're just going to join it like that. And then we'll just put a little line there, which will remind us later on that we're going to paint that pink. So we've got the head of our Dalmatian puppy. And I'm going to come back and put details on that later on. We're going to move to this puppy here on this side. And we're going to find where his nose goes. So I reckon, I'm going to move this over here, that he's going to be lower down. So somewhere here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little dot kind of in the middle of this section. And I'm going to draw that nose again. But this time, it's not at an angle because this guy, he's kind of looking straight at you. And then same shape to start off with snout going round. And then the side of his face is just there. And then 2 big eyes again. And now I'm going to imagine the top of that puppy's head. So I think probably about up here. I want him to have quite a big head. And then coming down here and here are going to be his floppy ears. And he's quite a furry fella, so we're going to have those sort of furry marks. Let's do them on this side as well. And that ear might come off the page and maybe come down here. So let's move over and do the last one here. So I'm going to move that over here. And again, in the middle of this sort of area, I'm going to put that little dot. And I'm going to do a nose again. So we're getting familiar with that shape. Now this guy, as you can see here, he's actually got his mouth open with his tongue hanging out. So it's a little bit more tricky. So you don't have to do this, but you might want to have a go. So he's got some slightly different shapes. So I'm going to be starting with, he's kind of smiling a little bit. So I've got what looks a little bit like one of those bird shapes you might put in the sky. And that's going to be his kind of the top of his mouth. And then just to help us work out, just either side, just here and here, I'm just going to put two little lines because this area is for his tongue. Now you're going to see the back of the top of his tongue, and that shape is kind of like that. So another birdie shape really. And then the tongue is going to curve round, flop round like this. It's a little bit like a baked bean or something. And then I'm just going to put a little line from that middle bit curving round. So now you can see that looks like a tongue hanging out. And then we just need to give him just the bottom of his mouth. Join up now to this tongue. And once you've done that bit, it's kind of back to what we did with the others now. So we've got that line that was going to come round and goes around like that. And then I'm doing slightly different eyes on this guy. I'm going to not draw the circle bit at the bottom. There we go. And then just here, I'm just going to do some squiggly lines. He's a really fluffy dog, this guy. So that's the inside of his ears. And the top of his head, somewhere up here. And then I'm just going to bring those jaggedy marks down. I might give him really long ears. There we go. And he's got one ear longer than the other. Must have had a bad haircut. There you go, so we've got 3 heads. So they need bodies now. So I'm going to start with this guy because he's actually sitting in the front. So we're actually going to see the whole side of his body here. So there we go, that can come down, jaggedy lines because he's furry, and we might see just the other edge here. And he's actually, in my picture, he's holding a bone. So to put that in, we're going to have a sort of curvy mark which goes up, along, back, and curves like that. I have a dog and I gave him a bone once and he wasn't particularly interested in it, but this one I think quite likes his. And then our Dalmatian, I'm going to give him just halfway and these points here, just give him a little line so that he's got his neck. So there's his neck. Can you see that? So that's just coming out of his face there. And I've stopped here because I want to give him a collar. So his collar's going to curve around like this. And then I just want to take his neck down a bit further. And now I think I'm going to put him in front of him. So we're going to see the side of his body there. So we've got him in the front, then our Dalmatian, and then we don't really need to draw anything here because he's sitting behind our Dalmatian. So let's do their eyes. So inside all their eyes, I'm going to do one more circle, just so that that little outside bit will be the white of your dog's eyes. So go around all of them. Now again, there are so many different ways of doing eyes. So it's totally up to you how you want to do your eyes. So this bit in the middle, that's going to be the coloured bit, the iris of the dog's eyes. But then because they're wide-eyed puppies, I'm going to do the black bit of their eye, the pupil, really big. Okay, so if you imagine this guy, I'm going to do another curve there and here. And later on, that is actually going to be the black bit of their eye. So in there, I'm going to do another circle. And what that is that's going to be the little white highlight. So just at the top, I'm going to do a C shape. So later on, when I come to paint it, I can do this bit, the colour of the eye, so maybe brown or blue, if you've ever seen a dog with blue eyes. So that you do have dogs with blue eyes. And then this bit will be black and that bit will be white. So let's do it again in this guy. All my dogs are kind of looking roughly the same way. Don't know what they're looking at. Maybe a pigeon. My dog doesn't like pigeons and always chases them in the garden. I'm going to take this down now, and I think the last thing that we need to do is put the patches onto our Dalmatian. So I'm going to start with the patches around his eye. So I'm just going to imagine that bit is going to be, so all that's going to be black later on. And I'll put patch there. I might put a little black patch there. So you can put these any way you like, and they're kind of just wibbly wobbly shapes. I'm going to put one there. Maybe the end of his ears. Dalmatians are very beautiful dogs. And let's put some on his body. So I might have one hiding here. And let's have one here. And maybe one on the side. So there's my 3 puppies. You might want to have a few goes at doing that until you feel really confident, and then you can draw it onto your canvas or whatever you're going to be painting on. Draw it with pencil first, and then when you're happy, you can outline it like I've done with a permanent marker pen. Now I've used a Sharpie, but just make sure your pen says permanent marker on it, because what you don't want to find is that the ink runs later on when you put the paint on. So good luck. And don't worry if it goes wrong the first time, just keep trying and you'll definitely get there in the end. And I'll see you in the next part where we'll learn how to paint it.
Hey, don't forget your brush!